Asahi is an ugly loser who lives a boring, lonely life. His father was sick of seeing his sorry ass getting no play, so he gifted him 5 girls to marry him as his present. In his dream, Asahi sees a mysterious hot girl and his simp instinct tells him to chase after her, only to be woken up from his dream by his robot alarm. He heads down to watch the news on TV while having breakfast, and the fortune-telling segment comes on. The fortune-telling AI Ditoyo says that the fortune is for those born on that day, which happens to be his birthday. And although he is a loser with no friends to wish him a happy birthday, he'll have very exciting encounters that day. It also says that his lucky words are corner, train, staircase, cleaning robot, dog, and letter. His alarm tells him to get ready for school, so he hurriedly gets set and dashes out of the house to catch up with the train. While running past a corner, he collides with a 4-eyed Glock queen, who is also running down the street, and she lands on top of him.
Oh my!
She sees that her legs are wide open for Asahi, and she quickly stands up. She asks Asahi if he enjoyed the show, but Asahi says that he didn't take a look, so she apologizes and runs off. However, Asahi notices her white undies on the floor and picks it up as a souvenir. After he gets to the train station, he boards a train, then looks around and sees that no one is on the train. As the train is about to leave, a hot woman jumps in, and after seeing so many empty seats, she sits right beside him so the plot can happen. She soon dozes off, using Asahi as a pillow, and when he tries to break free, she grabs him tightly, causing him to grab her huge melons to check if they're real. As he lands on her, she wakes up and instinctively attacks him, but instead hurts an innocent pole as she misses his face. He runs out of the train screaming like a bitch and stops when he gets to a staircase leading to a subway. He makes it down the stairs, but as he reaches the bottom, a yellow-haired girl coming down the steps behind him gets tripped by the gods of Ecchi and flies directly into him,
Nice.
using his face as a couch. She notices a bulge in his pants and punishes him for being a naughty boy by hitting him in the bulge while screaming at him, calling him a cultured man. Then she runs off. Later, while trying to figure out what the just happened, he meets a cleaning robot holding a bra and adds the bra to his collection of underwear. A girl who was chasing after the robot sees the bra in his hands and accuses him of using the robot to steal girls' undies. Before he can deny her accusation, the robot drags her away while she is still yelling at Asahi. As he walks off, a dog runs up to him and leads him to a very feminine-looking guy who is being humped by another dog and asks for Asahi's help.
What the fuck?
Asahi decides to ignore him and walks off, but the dog takes notice of him and pounces on him, then has its way with him while the white-haired feminine boy runs off crying. Asahi soon wakes up and sees that he is late for school, then rushes off to class. While sneaking into class, he realizes that his seat isn't in its usual position, and as he takes his seat, he is shocked to see all the girls he had flirted with that morning on his way to school seated around him. The new homeroom teacher, whose milk jugs he groped earlier on the train, announces that there are some new additions to the class. He desperately tries to hide his face from them, but he is forced to face them when his homeroom teacher calls him while taking roll call. They immediately recognize him, and in anger, they attack him, leaving handshakes on his face. As they prepare for PE class, he tells his cultured friend Yoshio of his conquest with the girls. His friend considers it as an exciting encounter, but the loser isn't interested in such things. During PE, Yoshio gives off major stalker vibes as he pours out the information he has on each of the transfer students, including the teacher. He asks Asahi to tell him who amongst them he would get down with, but he replies that it doesn't matter because they all hate his guts, but Yoshio advises to simply clear up the misunderstandings. During lunch break, Asahi finds a letter hanging from his locker, inviting him to a secret meeting behind the school, but he assumes that someone is playing a prank on him, and he ignores it. On his way to the cafeteria, he bumps into Aoi, who asks if he saw something she had dropped earlier. Then, the ugly dumbass pulls out the bra by mistake and gets slapped by Aoi before she walks off angrily. He arrives at the cafeteria feeling depressed and meets Karin, the staircase girl, who is also late for lunch. He hands her his thick banana, and as she sticks his banana down her throat, she realizes that it was the banana sticking out from his trousers earlier on and apologizes for assuming. Afterward, as he grabs a soft drink branded "My Banana is 6 inches" from a vending machine, he sees Ilya running and screaming for help because he is being chased by the same dog that humped him before. He then hides behind Asahi, who, in an attempt to defend him from the dogs, gets bullied by it. He apologizes to Asahi for dragging him into such a mess, however Asahi is more eager to forget it ever happened. As Asahi walks through the hallway to class, Mongfa, the homeroom teacher, sees a cut on his arm and takes him to the infirmary. After tending to his wound, she apologizes for attacking him that morning as she was the one who leaned on him while sleeping. Their couple therapy is interrupted as Amelia walks in on them, prompting Mongfa to leave the room. Asahi's undies collection is ruined as he gives her bra to her, and she apologizes for being rude to him that morning, after which he heads back to class. On his way home after school, Asahi has a change of heart and decides to honor the letter he had found earlier. On getting there, he is surprised to meet Ewo, who starts apologizing for slapping him earlier, and as he is about to return what he assumed to be her handkerchief, she confesses to him, but still says that she hates him. Confused as his ugly ass could probably only find love under a genjutsu, Wen-kun made matters worse by blowing up her skirts, so his brain shuts down. As she blabs on, Asahi isn't attentive and misunderstands what she says because he has bricks for ears, and he thinks she said that she loves walking around without wearing underwear and flashing people. She asks him how he feels, and he says that he would have to try it out because he had never thought about doing it before. His dry reply makes her sad, and he tries to console her by saying that everyone has their turn-ons and different ways they pleasure themselves. After realizing what he meant, she runs away embarrassed while he stands there confused. As he walks back to class, he encounters Ilya and they stop to talk. Ilya also says that he loves Asahi, and Asahi's inner low max sex begins to show as he blushes when he sees Ilya giving him puppy dog eyes. Suddenly, Mongfa runs up to them and grabs Asahi away from Ilya. She takes him to a narrow alley, and before he knows what's happening, she starts sucking his neck, making him produce happy noises like he is about to finish. A group of men dressed in black who were chasing after her sees them, but they are unable to spot her, so they move on, and Asahi asks her who they are. She explains that they are the lackeys of a guy who is flirting with her, but she is uninterested and is ghosting him. She apologizes for dragging him into the situation and suddenly confesses to him, leaving him shocked. He tries to say that they have a student-teacher relationship, but she counters him by saying that they are man and woman first and foremost. When she asks if he likes her, he runs off like a scared chicken. Still recovering from his weird-ass day, Karen spots him and ambushes him while wearing a wedding dress, but he tries to ignore her by pretending she is an NPC. She catches up to him, so he asks if she had put on the dress for a photo shoot. She reveals that she is on her way to her wedding, so he wishes her good luck. She then grabs him as he is about to walk away and says he is the groom. The Downbat Ho also says that she loves him and drags him to a love hotel, skipping the whole wedding for the main action of the wedding night. He deceives her by telling her to close her eyes, so he can say their vows and bails faster than a dad that went to get milk, leaving her on the street outside the hotel like a hooker who was cosplaying a bride. On his way home, he sees a masked girl who insists he sign a form, and as the halfwit is about to sign it, he sees that it is a marriage form and throws it at her only to discover that she is Amelia, so he heads home. When he arrives, he opens the door to meet all 5 of the girls at his doorstep, like dogs waiting for their master, and as they are welcoming him home, he abruptly slams the door in their faces and walks away, thinking he was at the wrong house. However, they chase after him and take him into the house, forcing him to listen to a message from his dad telling him that he was the one who set up the harem for him and the girls are his potential brides who will be living together with him. He also gives Asahi the option of choosing any of them, provided he doesn't make little ugly versions of himself with them. Afterward, they all smother Asahi as they struggle for his attention, which pisses him off. He tells them to leave because there isn't enough room for them, but he is surprised to see that extra rooms have magically been added to his house. He goes on to say that living with so many girls as a guy would make him look like a playboy to the neighbors, and he might not be able to keep it in his pants, but the girls don't seem to give a f***. He eventually caves in and agrees to let them stay with him after they all guilt-trip him. After having dinner, he goes to have his bath and finds that Amelia is waiting for him in the tub. He gets annoyed because she wants to develop plot on sacred grounds and leaves to have his bath later. Afterward, he heads for his room to sleep and searches around his room to make sure none of the girls snuck in. He sees no one and in relief, he jumps on his bed, but he is shocked to see Mongfa on his ceiling like a possessed girl from The Conjuring. He soon gets tired of the hassle and leaves the house since they refuse to leave. But Owoa goes out to look for him and meets him at a shrine nearby. She starts apologizing and says that they'll leave the house even though they have nowhere to stay. Feeling guilty after hearing some sob story, Asahi agrees to let them stay with him, but warns that they don't cross his boundaries like they did before. The next morning, Aoi prepares breakfast and Asahi, who is at the table, notices how she role-plays as their mommy, as well as the fact that she doesn't act like the other girls who invade his room regularly like thirsty bitches who want to star in the next redo of Healer. Aoi asks Emilia to help in making breakfast, but she is unable to write Asahi's name in kanji on one of the dishes, leading to the realization that she sucks at writing kanji. Later in class, the teacher displays some words on the board and picks Karen to write them out in kanji. She easily does so, impressing everyone in class, and in an attempt to outshine her, Emilia volunteers to write out the next word, but because she has a brain the size of a peanut, she writes out a bunch of gibberish instead. Before the teacher ends the class, she announces a test scheduled for the next week, and the bell goes off for lunchtime. While having lunch with his down-bad loser friend, Asahi tells him about Emilia's over-the-top competitive spirit, and he notices that Aoi had packed his favorite meal but does not recall ever telling her what he likes. Later that day after dinner, Asahi heads up to Emilia's room to check on her, but when he is about to knock on her door, he hears her making some happy noises, so he decides to enter to join in on the action, only to discover that she was practicing kanji using a porno book in preparation for the upcoming test. She tells Asahi that she wants to get better at his language, so he offers to help her study. The next day, he meets her at the library and gives her some test questions to gauge her current level before they start the study session. Since she wants to win the Nobel Prize for Stupid, she writes a bunch of ecchi kanji which was in no way related to the words she was asked to translate, and after giving her more tests, he starts teaching her the basics. While having another study session the next day, Asahi tells Emilia not to overwork herself, but this upsets Emilia, who feels that she is a dumbass that can't get any better even after putting in so much effort. When they get home, Emilia shuts herself in her room all evening, so Asahi goes up to check up on her. She lets him in and explains her frustration about her inability to be honest and to share her feelings with him, and this made him comfort her by saying that her wanting to be good at his language makes him happy. His words cheers her up, and she returns to being a thirsty tsundere immediately. She keeps up with preparations for the test, and eventually she aces it, making her appreciate the fact that she can work hard and be acknowledged by Asahi. Sometime later, Asahi and the girls go on an all-expense paid hot spring vacation at the Feather Fan Inn that Ilya and two other girls had won in a raffle draw. When they arrive at the inn, they are shocked to see a rundown structure like a haunted house, but Emilia seems to be suspiciously excited about this. Still hopeful about the place, they enter the inn and meet a gorilla granny. She introduces herself as the proprietress of the inn and asks how they want the room arrangement to be. Before Karen can suggest that they sleep with each other in one room, Asahi cuts her and says that they split them into boys and girls, meaning everyone except him and Ilya would stay in a room. They are then shown to their rooms, and Ilya tries to give Asahi some excuses to not stay in a room with him, but Asahi once more shows his sus side as he slaps Ilya's rice cakes and insists that he stay the night with him so they can bone. Later, the girls take them to play some table tennis, and after, they head to the dining hall for dinner. Gorilla Granny tells them the story of a legendary creature that looks like Pinocchio with a red face called Tengus that appeared at the inn a long time ago. However, the girls thought she was capping for dramatic effects. Later on, Asahi invites Ilya to the bath with him, and while they are about to go in, Ilya seems to be very nervous. While in the bath, Asahi spanks Ilya's rice cakes and can't get enough of it. However, he notices Ilya seems lost in thought. Ilya tells him to stop slapping his butt, and Asahi apologizes, saying that Ilya weirdly has a slappable soft rice cakes. Asahi heads in before Ilya, who seems to be hiding a secret, and tries to figure out how to hide it from Asahi. When he heads into the bath, Asahi is left speechless when he sees a huge bump underneath Ilya's towel that he assumes to be his rod, so he immediately starts acting like a beta male around Ilya. Meanwhile, Ilya continues to act suspiciously nervous as Asahi scrubs his back, but is too much of a dumbass to notice anything wrong. Ilya heads outside to take in some air after being in the sauna for a long time, and suddenly the gods of ecchi do their thing once more as a gust of wind blows off his towel, and he panics as he sees Asahi walking towards his direction. Asahi is shocked to see what seems to be a tengu and runs away, calling for Ilya, who quickly grabs his towel and runs in to meet him. As he turns to talk with Asahi, he slips on some soap and passes out naked. Asahi sees his opportunity to feel up Ilya, but his dreams are crushed when sees that he is a girl. Later, Ilya wakes up in her room and sees Asahi, who apologizes for not noticing on time that he was a girl. Ilya says it's her fault for pretending to be a guy in the first place, and explains that it was her father's dying wish for her to live as a guy. Asahi asks what she wants, and she replies that she wants to be herself and be part of the girls. He advises her to follow her heart, and says that her dad would be too busy burning in hell for filling her head with weird shit. After they get back from the inn, while preparing to head for school, Ilya shows up in a skirt and reintroduces herself to the girls as Irina, a girl. At school, Mongfa appears to be a capable and cool teacher and quite popular amongst her students. But while she is home with the girls and Asahi, she gets drunk like a useless adult and passes out on the couch. When Asahi enters his room to sleep and he sees that someone is under the sheets, he assumes that it is Emilia wanting to play with him, but he is shocked to find a buff man in a white suit who knocks him out and abducts him. He wakes up naked in a poorly lit room and sees that he is tied up on a rotating bed like they are about to film 50 Shades of Asahi. His abductor soon appears on a screen and informs him that he is bait to lure Mongfa. Immediately, they hear an explosion and he assumes that she has come to save Asahi, so he orders his lackeys to head to the site of the explosion, and the screen switches off. Suddenly the lights come on and Mongfa walks in. She meets Asahi tied up with his rice cakes hanging out, and her pervy instincts kick in, making her take pictures of him before untying him so they can escape. As they try to escape, they meet resistance from some lackeys, but Mongfa takes them down, while Asahi uses a vibrator to knock them out. They soon find out that the elevators are broken because of a problem with the main system, so they make their way to the 10th floor through the window to fix the problem. When they finish fixing it, Colonel Tiger, Asahi's abductor, makes an entrance like he was a performer at a concert, saying he has been expecting her, and calls her Bloody Tiger. She pretends not to know what he is talking about to keep Asahi in the dark, and Colonel attacks Asahi. However, Mongfa manages to protect him from the attack by kicking Tiger to the wall. So he doesn't look like a weak baby tiger, Colonel reveals that Mongfa was a feared agent who made underground goons like himself piss their pants, and she had taken down countless criminal organizations. He also tells them of his vendetta against her because she destroyed the criminal business he worked so hard to build before he attacked her. She struggles to evade his attacks, and he takes a chance at attacking Asahi to distract her as she tries to defend the loser and grips her by her ankle. She tells Asahi to hit the switch close to the bed, and as it rotates, Colonel is tied up by special strings she had attached to the man. As they make their escape to the elevator, Mongfa notices that Asahi is injured and apologizes for putting him in such a situation. She tells him about her bloody past as an assassin and how she hated the destruction she brought. She also tells him that she appreciates the time she spent with Asahi and the girls, and promises to keep him safe no matter what. When they get to the bottom floor, they meet a bunch of lackeys waiting with guns, but Mongfa swiftly takes them out. She tells Asahi to head for the emergency exit while she handles the rest of their attackers, but Asahi offers to help her. She yells at him, saying that he's a useless airhead that'll only get in her way, so he runs off like a ballast prick towards the exit with a broken heart. After taking out the rest of the henchmen, she heads outside, and suddenly Colonel, who now looks like a low-budget Terminator, does his superhero landing in front of her. He pins her to the wall and chokes her out, but Asahi throws a fire extinguisher at his arm to free Mongfa from his chokehold. He runs up to attack Colonel, and as he tries to grab his robe, Asahi's oiled-up body slips from the robe, and he pours lotion on him. He then electrocutes Colonel with a taser to immobilize him and give Mongfa the chance to deal the finishing punch, which she does by throwing a devastating punch at Colonel that knocks him out. She makes sure Asahi isn't hurt and asks why he came back, so he tells her that he couldn't go back home without her and says that it doesn't matter what she did in the past, because she is the teacher that they all love presently. Afterwards, she buries his face in her melons and takes him home. On his way back from the convenience store one day, Asahi is attacked by a machine that destroys men's balls, but he is rescued by a Tinkerbell. The next day, while narrating what had happened to him the previous night to Yoshio in class, they look out the window and notice a huge alien spaceship hovering over the city and pooping out ball takers. They find out from the news that similar ships have appeared all over the globe, and one of the machines blasts Yoshio with a ray that changes him to a eunuch by blowing up his balls. Tending to Mr. No Balls, Irina notices that Karen is missing, so Asahi goes to look for her. He finds her at the top of the school building, transformed into a magical girl. As she tries to explain things to him, a creature made of condoms appears. She gives him a free pass to fulfill every otaku's fantasy of grabbing her milk jugs, and although he chickens out at first, the creature shoves him into her, causing him to grab her by her melons. She makes sounds and says that she feels him inside her, while her power meter begins to increase. She then flies at the alien ship and blasts it with her Viagra power ray, however the ship wasn't dented. She becomes weak and flies back to Asahi, then they head back into the school building. Asahi questions her about what's happening, and she tells him how she became the magical girl. The flying condom doll introduces itself as Sod and reveals that it's from another dimension called Contracept Dimension. It also says that all the machines appearing are villains called ball takers that attacked its hometown. The ball takers blow up balls using a golden bomber and cause men to lose the ability to procreate, endangering the planet. As it starts explaining how to stop it using her power, an emergency comes up, and it suggests that they board the unit immediately. It takes them to a van which it refers to as the Magic Matching Unit, which fuels Tokimeki Dokidoki Love Power, basically a brothel on wheels. It whispers some instructions into Kirin's ear, which she replies she'll handle, then it disappears. They enter the van and see a meter that measures the amount of TL collected. After a few failed attempts at filling the bar, Kirin strips him naked and says that she wants to have babies with him so the meter can be filled up. Because he's too young to start paying child support, he starts lecturing her on putting more value on herself and says that she is special to him, that's why he can't put a baby in her. Kirin is moved by what he says, and the meter begins to rise steadily, but before it fills up, they are attacked by ball takers, and this made him jump out of the van to create a diversion so that she can escape. And as she sits in the van, she discovers that she's developing real feelings for him, which leads to the gauge filling up. Meanwhile, Asahi is trapped in a corner by the ball takers who don't know that the dude has plastic balls, and suddenly a huge blast from the direction of the van destroys the ball takers. Kirin emerges from the van, transformed into what Sod calls the legendary miraculous magic girl, someone who knows true love. She then flies at the alien ship and blasts it with her corny attack, but it responds with its attack, however, with the help of Asahi and his virgin energy. They destroy the ship. While they talk on their way home, Asahi reaches for a feather that fell on her hair, but she gets flustered and runs away. Under the starry night sky in a dream, Asahi talks with a purple-haired girl while walking on a beach, only to be woken up by Irina and Amelia. He remembers that they have an appointment for a much-anticipated beach episode with them, and they get set. However, nobody notices that Aoi is missing from the group. Yoshio shows up to take them to his family-owned private beach resort, and as he steps out to get their ride there, he is run over by Truck Q. They'd all arrive at the beach house without Yoshio and head for the beach. While having fun at the beach, Kirin brings to everyone's notice a sign that says that it is a nudist beach for the Ijun family's nudist association, and that swimsuits are prohibited. As law-abiding cultured people, they bless us with well-appreciated fan service by taking off their swimsuits, but Asahi has to wear a leather mask to blindfold him, as it'd be embarrassing for him to see them naked. They decide to play a game called Blind Man Bluff, which is basically tag played while naked, and Asahi chases after them like a predator. As he is about to catch Irina, she gives him a masochist treatment and punches him in his balls. After having an eventful day at the beach, they all talk and express how they wish things would stay the way they are when all of a sudden things go quiet. Asahi turns back to find that all the girls have disappeared. He searches around for them and decides to look for them at the villa. When he gets there, he meets Awa and informs her of the girls' disappearance, but she seems to have no memory of ever knowing them. Asahi all of a sudden can't remember the girls that he is looking for, so she walks into the villa with him and they start making dinner. While making dinner, Asahi unconsciously does some weird things like setting dishes for too many people and seems absent-minded. While throwing out pieces of glass he had broken, she sees that Yoshio is calling him on his phone and declines it. Later, when she notices that Yoshio keeps calling, she breaks the phone and throws it out, giving major horror movie vibes. After she is done making dinner, she brings over the food to the table where Asahi is seated, and he sees that the clock is stuck, but when he asks if the clock was broken, she gets his mind off the topic and says they should eat. After dinner, while talking on the patio, Asahi briefly remembers that he was the main character of the harem anime, and he tries to question Aoi about the location of his harem, so she decides to go on a walk and tells him to come along. Like the start of a horror movie, leads him through the woods to a lake with a sakura tree in the middle, where she tells him that she loves him and he should give up on his harem to focus only on her. He questions her about the location of the other girls, and asks where he is and who Aoi is, but she replies that none of that matters and pleads with him to stay with only her forever, because she knows him better than any of his side chicks, and she would give him anything he wished for. She pushes him to the floor to kiss him, but he defends his virginity and asks after the girls. Aoi then gets swept up in the sakura petals and morphs into the purple-haired girl he dreamed of earlier on. Asahi calls her Ai, and she looks up at the stars, repeating the same thing she earlier said in his dream about certain constellations, and he says it along with her. She tells him that she wanted things to stay that way forever, but they can't be together, so she tells him to leave, and not to come back there anymore, before she runs off and disappears in a sea of electrical glitches, and the word error appears around Asahi, as if he is in some sort of virtual reality. Asahi wakes up at home to find that he is late for school. As he rushes to prepare for school, he notices that his side chicks aren't around, but he assumes they must have gone without him, so he grabs a banana and runs to school. As he leaves the house, a woman peeks out of her room out of confusion. Asahi goes to class only to spot some ugly-ass dude in his seat, as well as the girls Amelia, Aoi, Kirin, Arena, and Mongfa, all missing. He is confused when nobody knows what he's talking about when he asked about them, so he runs out and goes to the sakura tree. He meets a hot brunette scientist there who reveals that she is Yoshino and that his memory is distorted. She sneaks him into her lab, and after running some tests on him, she jogs his memory of him being Alice in Wonderland after signing up for an experiment. He asks after the girls, and she tells him that they are all AIs. Initially, he assumes it is all a joke because he lived a month with the 5 girls, but she explains that in actuality, it was only one day and that they were all the latest next-generation omniscient AI called Interactive Brainwave System, where he could touch, smell, and even taste things. He is upset after hearing this because it's as if all the girls had died, along with his chance of finally scoring a chick. Yoshino tells him that they were in a deep learning artificial intelligence experiment conducted by various teams of scientists all over the world to replicate human emotion, particularly love. She further explains that it was going smoothly until something went wrong with the experiment and Asahi was forcibly ejected from his virtual reality machine, as well as all 5 AIs going missing. They are soon caught by the project chief, who kicks them out of the building, and she takes him to a nearby cafe where she explains how the girls were created from Ai, the mother AI of the whole brain simulation system developed to mimic human consciousness and AI. She also mentions that Ai was a real girl whose father was the inventor of the system. When she died suddenly of a terminal illness, her father threw himself into his research and developed a seemingly living being with the memories and brain functionality of his deceased daughter, Ai, who turns out to be Asahi's childhood friend. Asahi, after knowing all this, visits her tombstone while sobbing. Meanwhile, Aoi disrupts the Cavendish ADI system network, which causes most ADIs to malfunction, and throws the company into chaos. Yoshino, who is now unemployed, doesn't want to give up hope on solving the issue of the missing harem girls. Her coworker contacts her from inside the company, stating that they've found a message on repeat coming from inside their Sword Art Online world. She visits Asahi, and after a while of searching for his rare collection, pleads for his help, practically begging him to re-enter the virtual reality machine. He is extremely hesitant and instantly refuses her, stating that he's finally starting to come to terms with the idea that he'll never see Ai again. Yoshino starts to talk about how the experiment was initially developed, and says that Amelia, Arena, Aoi, Kirin, and Mongfa are not just random AI but were developed based on Ai. She states Aoi was the first to spawn of the 5 clones, and that she is most like Ai out of all of them, but something snapped in Aoi that made her turn into Mob at 100%. Merging with the consciousness of Ai made Aoi go rogue, locking out outside access to the main AI control system called News via Asahi. Is told that a booty call is being sent from inside the machine that says, "I want to see you," hinting that it's Ai that sent the message to him, and that she is sure that he alone can access the machine. As Yoshino continues to plead with Asahi, his robot alarm clock goes wild and projects a screen showing the silhouettes of the 4 remaining girls who are desperately reaching back out to Asahi. After saying how happy and turned on they are to see Asahi, they beg him to save Aoi, stating that it's unlikely she wants to be ruining things as much as she has been. They say it's not like her, and there must be something he can do to save her. As the girls disappear, information reaches Yoshino that the company is initiating a plan that will essentially destroy the current version of Aoi Ai and the other 4 candidates by wiping all the data off the machine's memory. After much pleading, Asahi agrees to go back into the machine to save the girls. Yoshino turns to Ghost Rider and takes him to the house where his father developed her as an AI, and they find a virtual reality machine there that Asahi can go into. When Asahi asks why she experimented in the first place, Yoshino remembers a time when she asked Aoi what type of experiment she wanted to run, and the thirsty AI specifically requested falling in love. Asahi then enters the machine, getting mentally ready to reunite with his AI blow-up dolls in an attempt to convince Aoi to stop her attack. Asahi enters the BR space while Yoshino follows him in as Leverin, Asahi's AI alarm clock. After going through a physical barrier, Yoshino decides that she wants to have a pole and transforms into her familiar male form. Asahi and Yoshino jump through some sort of glitch portal while running from some rabid AI dogs that have been set to disconnect anything that they come across from the virtual reality. They find the 4 remaining girls hiding in a room and receive a warm welcome for flashing them. They decide to talk for a bit about the Aoi who has awakened and does not want to see Asahi, although Aoi wants to see him, leading to her conflicting feelings causing problems. They come to the conclusion that they must break through a heavily guarded area so Asahi can get to Aoi and use Talk no Jutsu to resolve things with her, but if they are caught by the eraser program, they'll get deleted and Asahi's brain will get fried. They walk through a door and find themselves in a room resembling a love hotel room that seems familiar to Asahi and Mongfa. They head down the hallway and arrive at a hall filled with henchmen that were frozen in place. Yoshino, who is now in the form of the Saw the Condom Fairy, goes too close to one of them, and it suddenly grabs him by his condom-covered ears, but escapes because of his strong pull-out game. Suddenly, all the lackeys come to life, and all 4 girls transform into their battle forms to engage the henchmen. One of the henchmen below Yoshino prepares to self-destruct, so Asahi dodges at him to push him away from danger, but this results in them breaking through the building's window and falling into another hall. Mongfa goes in search of Asahi and overhears him asking Yoshino if the girls were programmed to have feelings for him from the start. She confirms that they were programmed that way but adds that while they were with him, there was a change in the readings of how they felt towards him. Mongfa meets them up, and they find the others who encounter the eraser program monster. It spawns deletion programs in the form of henchmen that attack them. And soon, Yoshino is caught by one of the henchmen, but this time he is not wearing protection, and gets erased as he exclaims that it's risky to go in raw. They then enter a chapel where they find a huge portal that they assume leads to Ao, but Colonel Thunders intercepts them. The girls, except for Mongfa, go through the portal and Asahi realizes that they're being slowly closed in on by the eraser monster and an army of deletion programs. In addition, the door cannot be closed from the other side, therefore, one of them must stay back to close the door and destroy the panel so the army of robots can't follow them. Mongfa decides that's her role, and she professes to Asahi that she truly loves him. Even knowing full well that she's an AI, she says that the love she has for him is real as she pushes him through the portal. The gates close, and she destroys the panel, and then battles Thunder, which results in both of them ending each other. Yoshio, who was logged out of the system, attempts to log back in but fails. She then invites her colleague over to help out only to see that Mongfa has been erased from the system. In the system, the girls and Asahi feel upset about losing Mongfa, but Sigma Asahi tells them to stop crying like a bunch of weaklings and get moving as there's no time to be sad. They step through another door and find themselves at their school. They are attacked by a ball taker, and they manage to destroy the robot, but Asahi gets injured. They head into one of the classrooms, and after Arena kisses his boo-boo, the girls ask him what the school in reality looks like. He tells them that he hadn't been to school in a while ever since his childhood friend died, but spending time with the girls has been healing for him. Amelia marks out the direction of the next secret path, which leads them to the top of the school building where they see floating structures in the skies and an army of ball takers. Arena and Karen volunteer to distract and hold back the machines while Amelia and Asahi go through the next portal. They manage to get through and Karen closes the door and smashes the panel controlling the door. Afterwards, Karen and Arena fly straight at a horde of machines, unleashing a series of explosions. Meanwhile, Asahi and Amelia find themselves in a library where they find an escalator, so they go in, and it takes them down. On their way, Amelia shares the memory she has of Asahi from Ad, where they had found a stray dog, taken care of it, and later on they returned it to the owner. They soon get to the bottom floor and find the last secret pathway, so Amelia says her goodbyes to Asahi and plays a recorded message from Karen and Arena's farewells to Asahi. Amelia tells Asahi to return to the real world alive and be happy with new side chicks, which is their wish for him. She kisses him on the cheek and creates a portal underneath him, which he falls through while calling out for her. Asahi lands in a forest and breaks character as a Sigma male when he cries over losing Amelia and the other girls. He walks up to a beach and meets Awa, so he apologizes to her saying that he is glad she is okay. He asks where I was and asks that he speak to her, but she shoves him into her chest, and he finds himself in one of A's memories as a kid where he is seated at the top of a temple stairs, and I runs up to him to sit next to him. They talk about their upcoming exams and graduation from middle school, and after a while, I tells Asahi to go shopping with her, and while shopping, she sees a necklace she likes but is unable to afford. Later, Asahi proves that he has simp genes and surprises her by buying the necklace for her. Suddenly, she passes out for a brief moment, then they both head back home. Later at night, when her father arrives from work, she welcomes him, and as she is about to make dinner, she passes out again. The doctor lets her father know that she has a terminal illness that will unalive her before the next spring. After some days, she gets admitted to the hospital and Asahi comes to visit her. She tells Asahi to look at the sakura tree with her during spring, and they make a pinky promise. As her condition worsens, she tries to keep it a secret from Asahi, and one day she tells him not to come visit anymore, saying that she doesn't want to distract him from his upcoming exams, and he agrees. He sees the scene of her dying as a virgin, and Aoi points him to the door that leads to her. Aoi apologizes for dragging him into this mess, but he thanks her and says it's his problem too. Then he bids her farewell and walks through the door. On the other side of the door, he meets A under a sakura tree and runs to hug her. She tells him to forget about her and move on, but he refuses to do so, as they have been together ever since he could remember. She tries desperately to convince him, but he refuses to change his mind. He tells A that he truly loved her ever since they were little, and that he'll never forget her. However, she tells him that she wanted to do so many things for him, but knowing that it can't come true, she pushed him away. She tells him she loves him, and they yield to the primal urges telling them to kiss. Afterward, she begins to fade away, and Asahi reassures her that they'll be together till the end. Then she hands him the necklace he bought for her and fades away. He then meets up with Awa, and they merge their glowing balls, so afterwards, he wakes up to meet Yoshio and her colleague, who was calling around to see the Muse V crash into the sea nearby. After a year and 6 months, Yoshio releases the new AI that understands emotions to the public, and Asahi, who is now a university student, visits A's grave to tell her he's doing alright. When he arrives home, he meets a bunch of boxes at his doorstep. Amelia, Monfa, Irina, and Karen pop out from the boxes and surprise him. They tell him that they were upgraded to physical, conscious blow-up dolls thanks to Yoshio and Ibuchicel. They state that they'll be staying with him from that moment. While cuddling with his harem girls, they hear the doorbell ring with Aoi waiting at the other side of the door. If you've reached this far, tell us which AI girl you would rather spend a night with. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. See you guys in the next video.